record and
Welcome. I am Lauren Oak. I am a certified gentle sleep coach. I am also a certified lactation counselor and a birth and postpartum doula. So basically, everything in the birth and baby world. Um, I have twins that are 19. And I also, as Nat said before, I also have two singletons, and I'm a grandma, believe it or not. Uh, and welcome to our first twin sleep school for 6 months to 3 years. All right, next. All right, so today's agenda is going to be broken down into different age groups, 6 to 12 months, 12 to 24 months, and 2 to 3 years. So some of the things what we are going to talk about is understanding your 20 sleep needs, age appropriate expectations, common challenges depending on their age, and solutions to these common challenges. All right, next.
could everybody see and hear Lauren? Okay, so thumbs up if you can, or perfect. Okay, so yeah, so if you guys don't want to turn your camera on, just give us like a little indication or throw it in the chat so that we know, but I think we're okay. And Lauren, you could see the whole slide, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I hope everybody else can. All right, so for your 20s that are 6 to 12 months, their goals are 11 hours of uninterrupted sleep at night. And 3.5 hours of daytime sleep spread over 2 or 3 naps. If it's 3 naps, it's usually 2 longer naps and then a little bit of a catch-up nap later in the afternoon. So my big word of advice is that these kids, all kids in general, need a regulated wake-up time and bedtime. So they're around this age, their regular natural bedtime is between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. And they shouldn't wake up anytime before 6 a.m., but no later than 7:30 a.m. So now when you can do a little bit of reverse math to figure out their bedtime. If you have your babies getting up at 6 and you go backwards 11 hours, you're going to get to 7 o'clock. So that should be their bedtime. If they're getting up a little bit later, say 6:30 or 7, then you bump that bedtime up a little more. If they're still getting up in the middle of the night, you need to account for that time that they're awake at night and add time, because if they're up for 45 minutes in the middle of the once a night, you have to add the 45 minutes to that 11 hours. Okay, next. Okay, so these are the common challenges that happen in this age group. There's the sleep regressions, there's nap inconsistency, there's separation anxiety. So basically, some of the things that you need to do. Oh, I want to go back to the first thing because I didn't say that you need to have a regulated wake up time. So I want you guys to pick a time anywhere between 6 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. and let that be your wake up time. Both twins get up at the same time and you start your day. Every single day should be the same time. If you pick 6 a.m. as your wake up time and you're like, oh, maybe 6:30 will work better, change it. But once you figure out what time works for you guys, I want you to start waking them up every day at the same time and start your day. It really kind of lays the day out and then you kind of know where you're going for the day. If you pick the same time every day, you know that they're going to get up, they're going to have their first bottle, say at 6:30, and then 3 hours later, they're going to have another bottle or some solids maybe, and then go down for a nap. So like it kind of lays out the day and gets you guys into a more structured day. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this. So basically, sleep regressions usually coincide with physiological things, developmental milestones, growth spurts. They're learning how to stand and crawl and they're teething. So this will lead to more increased middle of the night wakings and difficulty settling down. So if they're starting to stand up, this is one thing I hear a lot of, where they start to stand up in the crib and then they don't know how to get back down, or you're worried they're going to fall. My suggestion is that you practice during the day of them safely getting down. Like if they're holding on to the coffee table, teach them how to get down, or even in their crib, make it like a little bit of an exercise where they learn how to get down, because them being able to lay down on their own from a standing position will help with self-soothing. So this is definitely a skill that they need to learn, and it's beneficial to them to be able to put themselves back to sleep if they wake up in the middle of the night and then they start standing. So as far as naps, I want you to know that if you have a shorter nap, they're going to have a shorter wake window. So I want everyone to start a sleep log, especially during the day, and watch their daytime sleep, because if they're not getting enough daytime sleep, it's going to affect their nighttime sleep. I hear a lot of parents saying, "Oh, I'm going to keep them up. I'm going to let them stay up throughout a nap." And that really snowballs into a negative thing. Their brain starts building cortisol and it starts fighting sleep. And then you have an even more difficult time laying them down at night. So sleep brings on sleep, especially at this age. So I want to make sure that you guys are getting that 3.5 hours of daytime nap, uh, daytime sleep in, so that they can go down at night. Let me see.
Can I ask something for everybody that's here? Are you guys struggling more with naps or nighttime sleep? Right? Because the thing is then, so put in the chat or take yourself off mute, like literally, if you want to give us like a little insight so that Lauren could literally be like, okay, we're struggling with naps. I know she's going to go into all of this, but it's always good for us to have like a basis, because I know that everybody that's in this room is struggling today.
Yes.
Is anybody not struggling right now? Is everybody like, oh no, we're sleeping great, we're just trying to get ahead of it, right? Said nobody ever in the history of Twiniversity, right? All of us are in the weeds dying right now.
Okay. I can't read. Where's Rachel wrote that her kids are up every 15. I'm getting too many comments. Can you see the comments? What Rachel said?
Sure.
About
so her both girls are taking 15 to 20-minute naps, and they're still waking up every 2 to 3 hours each night. They're almost 6 months. So we got issues with naps.
You guys aren't the only ones waking up every 2 to 3 hours.
Naps should be a minimum of 45 minutes. If it's only a 15-minute, to try to get them to lay back down. Anything less than 45 minutes is considered a disaster nap. 45 minutes is basically when they go through a full sleep cycle, and they need to do that in order to have it considered a good nap.
We're also struggling mainly with naps, a little bit at night, but mostly 20 minutes max with this one. Her brother is basically the same.
Okay, so basically I want you, for everybody in these positions, basically you're going to start off giving them a lot more naps so that they can get that 3.5 hours in throughout the day. Try to elongate each nap. And that's where the sleep log really comes into play. So like you're going to write down when they went to sleep, how long they were asleep. If one is asleep a little longer than the other, you have to watch their wake windows. So if they are sleeping a lot less, then they need to have more frequent naps, and their wake window will be shorter. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm trying to get my thing over here. Does that make sense?
I'm gonna say if we start taking a nap log, then that'll give us insight into what our kids are currently doing.
Yes,
and once we have that, then we could see where the deficits are and figure out where we have to add more sleep stuff.
Yes. I usually say by like 3:00 in the afternoon, I want you to look at your log and say, how much did these kids get to sleep? Did twin A only get 2.5 hours and needs another hour somewhere, and twin B maybe is only short 45 minutes? I really want you guys to work on that daytime sleep so that in the evening, they're not overtired. Their brain isn't overflowing with cortisol and fighting the sleep. You need them to be well rested during the day so that they can sleep at night. So how do you add sleep if they won't sleep? Well, also the other thing is, if you're worried about them waking each other up, or if one is sleeping well and the other one isn't, I want you to move the better sleeper out of the room if you can, and keep the poorer sleeper in, because that the one that's the worst sleeper needs to learn to sleep better in their sleep environment. If you move that one out, they're going to say, what did I do? Why am I? And they're going to have to relearn how to sleep back in their room again, if that makes sense. So move the better sleeper out. If that sleeper will sleep anywhere, put a pack and play in your room or in another bedroom. Try to separate them, especially for the naps. You don't necessarily have to do it at night, but definitely for the naps in the beginning so that they can get that good sleep in. They really need to work on that. So like I said, you may have to get a few days of them being a little wacky and all over the place where you're just constantly laying them down so that they can get that sleep in. But it will iron out because then you'll start to see these longer naps. The more sleep they get, the more sleep they will have. So in the beginning, the first couple days might be a little wacky. You're going to feel like you're constantly laying them down, but you need to log it and really get that sleep tank filled up.
Lauren, if they don't sleep, like hypothetically, and guys, so the thing is truthfully, I'm you today and Lauren is her, right? So I will ask, like, I'm here to play with this game too.
Go ahead, ask away.
If our kids, like, let's say it's 3:00, right? Like Rachel was saying, how do we get them to sleep if they won't sleep? And you're saying that we have to add more sleep. Do we just add another nap? Like, let's say it's like 4:00 and like it was a crap day. It was garbage naps. It was horrendous, a total poop show. Do we say, okay, we're going to go out? And for the record, too, like, I understand the struggles that you guys have. And so we're going to try to give you as many direct answers so you could start working on all this today. So if today, total epic failure, do we go out in the stroller and take another nap? Like, do we have a nap? Do we let them nap on us? What do we have to do to make sure we fill that sleep tank?
Okay. So by 3, 4 o'clock, if you're like, oh, they really need an hour, I want you to do whatever you can to get them to sleep for that hour. Car nap, stroller, on you, whatever. I don't want it to be happening earlier in the day. It's that last catch-up nap that if they're not going to go down in their cribs or in their pack and plays, that's when I want you to pull out all the tricks to try to get them to sleep. But not throughout the day. This is just for that last one, that last nap.
Perfect. We have a question from Amy. Amy, you want to unmute yourself and give us a heads up?
Yeah, you might hear my baby blah, blah, blahing. So literally, we don't nap in our cribs ever. If I put them in their cribs, it's like I just like started pulling their toenails out. Like, it's just horrible. And we really have just become like twinsy sleepers where I give them a bottle and they fall asleep. And that's the only way I can get them to fall asleep is by feeding to sleep. And so at nighttime, they wake up and the only thing that puts them to sleep is like a bottle.
How old are they?
They're 7 months, 6 adjusted.
Okay, so first thing I want you to do is start hanging out in their room, making it a fun place to play, getting them used to being in their room.
Mm-hmm.
They not necessarily in the crib first, but hang out in their room. Make it fun. Don't make it a scary place. Make it a place that you're going to hang out in for a few days before you try to get them to kind of hang out in their crib. You don't even necessarily have to make them nap in their crib, but kind of hang out in there. Maybe put a couple toys in there, make it a fun experience, just so that they're comfortable being in there.
Right.
As far as the bottles and stuff, that's something that I always talk about, especially with younger babies, making sure that they're getting enough to eat during the day. So are you breastfeeding or formula feeding mixed?
We're doing formula and then we started solids now.
Okay. And has the doctor given the okay that they could sleep through the night?
I'm in Canada, like Ontario. And so there's not like, we only have a family doctor. So they're not involved pretty much in like a child's development in that sense.
Okay. How much do they weigh?
She is about, I want to say 17 and a half, and he's 16. Like, he's a bit smaller.
So basically there is, up until a certain weight, there is a mathematical equation. It's 2.5 ounces per pound of baby, but you multiply the weight of the baby by 2.5 ounces, and then you divide by how many feeds they get, and that's how much you figure out they're going to get per feed. It maxes out at 32 ounces approximately. So you want these babies to each get 32 ounces per day. So how much are you putting in a bottle, would you say?
We use the 4-ounce bottles, but like Adelaide will take 1.5, 2 bottles, like sometimes a feed. But my boy, he like really struggled with feeding at the beginning. So he is small. Okay. And he wakes up more than she does at night. Like, she'll only have one wake up.
Okay.
And she's like an 8 o'clock to a 7:30 sleeper with one wake up to eat. And he will wake up 3-4 times a night.
Okay, so I want you to really work on their feeding during the day and not letting them sleep through feeds, making sure that they eat every 3 hours. You want to kind of you want their bottles to be like close to maybe 6 ounces, or they might be too, depending on how much they're taking. How much do you think he takes per feed?
He does?
Yeah, how much do you think?
About 4 to 5 ounces a bottle.
He probably, would he take more?
No, it would come right back up.
Okay, so has he spoke with the doctor about any sort of reflux?
Yeah, like he's way better now than he was.
Okay.
He was like a projectile, like you couldn't put anything in him before, but he's like really turned a corner.
Is he on medication?
No, it made it a lot worse. So
really? Okay. Okay, so his goal will be to slowly increase his ounces throughout the day, because the goal is that you want him to get all 32 ounces during his wake hours versus at night. Because he's a little bit behind her, he still may need to get up a little bit, but really the goal will be that he gets these big feeds like she's getting. So I want you to slowly work at it. Maybe do an extra ounce, like really stick to like the 5 ounces, but maybe even do like a 5.5 ounce if he can, but slow with it.
Yeah.
Because he has feeding challenges, that adds a whole other element to it all. So he needs to be able to take those full feeds in, because the formula and breast milk for children under the age of 12 months is really the way that they're going to get the majority of their nutrition. Solids and purees and all that stuff is just in addition. It's not.
Yeah.
So I want you to make sure that he's getting all of that. And maybe speak with the GI doctor about how you can try to up it if there's any other sort of,
So I just want to say the way that, Lauren and I work together impeccably, because we have our different areas of expertise. So a lot of times people don't realize that feeding does directly affect sleep, right? We all think that sleep is an independent thing because we sleep independently. But the analogy that I use is that if we were going on a road trip, right? If we were going on a road trip, we would not just leave the garage how about this? Typically, we wouldn't just leave the garage with the gas that's in the car. We would stop before we got on the highway to fill up the gas so that we wouldn't have to stop at rando rest stops on the highway. When you think of feeding and sleep, you have to think of sleep as the road trip and feeding is the fill up. So is their gas tank on full before we attempt to get them to sleep? Because if they are not on full, they are not going to sleep. And hungry babies, and everybody's like, a lot of our doctors tell us, it's fine. Push it to 4 hours during the day, or let the babies do whatever. Singletons could do that.
Yeah.
It's a singleton privilege. Hey, there's a singleton. So there's a singleton privilege that we don't get to have as twinnies. We have to basically run our homes like they're nursery schools, because if we do not, they will eat us alive. We know this, right? We do know that in our homes, we are the prey and they are the predators. Like, let's be honest now, right? So if we were thinking, how are we going to get them to sleep, whether it's a nap or whether it's overnight sleep, their gas tank has to be on full before they lay down. Now, for Amy, I'm sorry, like Lauren and I both have kids with feeding issues. Like, we get you, boo, we hear you, but that is a special circumstance. And we do have to wait till we're past that point of where we don't have to hold our babies up for an extended period of time to even get into the good stuff of sleep. But always think of the analogy of, is their gas tank full before you're attempting the road trip of sleep? And Lauren, I
also have like a similar issue. She was growth restricted and had a feeding tube for a while. And we're still having, and both of the twins have really bad acid reflux. We actually had an ENT appointment this morning. She had to get a scope. It's been a whole thing. So they're 7 months tomorrow. So that's also one of my challenges. They're still underweight technically. So like doing the full, like they still take about 1 or 2 feedings a night. And from what I understand, and there are varying opinions, but from what I understand, it's not really a good idea to take those feedings away from them yet, because they are still struggling, especially her, because she, really struggled in the beginning, and is still much smaller than her brother, her twin brother. So, yeah, so we're like keeping those feeds at night. But like, I don't know how much they're interrupting their sleeps, or that some people say they get used to the feed even when they don't need them anymore. But they're still pretty little in size. So from what my pediatrician has recommended, not removing the feeds yet, but
Well,
so
I would go
we're
with what your pediatrician said until they feel comfortable, because they're the medical professionals. So,
right.
and the goal will be eventually that she will be able to take all her calories in during her wake hours.
Right.
Now she has another issue that needs to be ironed out.
Yeah, so she doesn't really nap like at all. Her brother's a little bit better, but it's still like a short nap. It's definitely not 45 minutes. Like, I put him down right before this call started, and he's now crying. So, and she's kind of even worse. Like how you were saying, add more sleep. Like, I will put her down, she'll scream for half hour, 45, like whatever. Like she will not sleep.
And how long is she awake for before you try to lay her down? Say she gets up in the
Couple
morning.
hours at least.
She's probably up too long.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
Maybe.
At night they're better at like self-soothing, but again, like at night, like I'm feeding them before I put them down, so they're pretty conked out by the time I am putting them down.
They're
And
too
like,
tired. They're not learning.
yeah, but it's also tough because they're on a different, like what you mentioned before, waking them up at the same time. We haven't been doing that, so they wake up at different times, so they're hungry at different times, so they're tired at different times. So it's like just like a never ending game of putting one down, picking one up, putting one down.
So you want to try to get them on the same schedule. Wake them up at the same time in the morning.
Okay.
Start the day. I want the wake windows to be a lot shorter, maybe 90 minutes. Like hours.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, like if they're getting up at 6:30 and you're feeding, they're going to get their first bottle by like 8:30, they should be back down.
Okay. Okay. And so like is the idea, so then okay, so say we put her down at 8, they're like over 90 minutes, and then she only sleeps 20 minutes. Do I just keep that 90-minute marker?
Yeah, you may even do only an hour, because 20 minutes really is nothing. And I want you to try to get in, like even try to get her to lay back down. And if you have to separate them temporarily, sleeper, let him sleep somewhere else. Get used to being in there and going to sleep. See if you can.
Yeah, I've tried to soothe her after the 20 minutes, and it's a no-go.
If it's a no-go, then the clock starts again and you watch.
Okay.
So for a few days, it might be a little wacky.
Right.
You're laying her down constantly and him not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal will be that she finally gets all that sleep.
Right. Okay, I see. So get the 3 hours however you can get it to start.
You can. It's 3.5, I think, right? Yeah, 3.
Right, and it, just during the daytime.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have other quick
questions? Mark had his paw up.
Mark, what's going on?
Hi, thank you. It's actually Laura, Mark's wife. Sorry. I will try to summarize quickly our difficulty. We've 6-month-old identical boys, 5 months adjusted, and they were very good sleepers from 3 months to 6 months. They napped well with the regular wake windows, and then they slept well with a dream feed at 10 p.m. and slept to 6 a.m. with just some like little bit of
I lost you.
It's not you. It cut out.
Oh.
Okay. Hey, Lauren, I want to go to some of the slides that we have, because I think it's covering a lot of the stuff that we're talking about.
Go on down to the ones that you think, and
we didn't forget about you, but you cut out, so we'll get back to you in a second. So because I know that the next one is all about the big pacifiers, which I know that parents of twins, I know that we do use pacifiers more than the average bear. right? So the thing is let's talk about this, and then sleep crutches, and which is also contact naps and all that good stuff. So here you go. I'm on.
All right. So as far as like pacifiers and things, this is kind of the time where you decide, are you going to keep them or you ditch them? A lot of times parents will say, it falls out of their mouth and they can't get it back in. I want you guys, if you want to keep them and you think that one baby may need them and the other one may not, it's very independent, person dependent, baby dependent. So if you feel that your baby still needs the pacifiers, I want you guys to practice having them put it in their mouths. Get a bunch of them, put them in a high chair, let them practice with that pincher grab on how to put it in their mouth on their own, because that sucking will help them sleep. Now, when you get them into their sleep space, I want you to also put a bunch in there so that they can grab it and put it in their mouth. And when they're practicing during the day, they'll figure it out at night. It may take a little while. It's not going to be a one-day thing, but practice, practice, practice. If you feel like they don't really need them, ditch them. It's fine. Might be a night or two where they're a little crankier than normal, but if they really don't need them that much, you can absolutely get rid of them. Now, we also spoke about feeding already. I want to make sure that they're eating enough during the day, those 32 ounces of breast milk or formula, without a doubt, and then add in purees, solids, whatever, but that's on top of, not instead of. And make sure that, like, a lot of these parents have spoken with their doctors. Some can go further, can go all night without feeding them. Some can't. So this is really baby dependent. And also, if you're breastfeeding and you want to wean at night, there's 3 different things that you can do. You can taper off where you gradually stop. You cut down the amount of minutes that you're actually nursing. So say like you were doing a 20-minute feed with both babies, maybe cut it down to 15 minutes one night, and then slowly go back to 10 minutes and then to 5 minutes and then stop altogether. So it takes a couple of nights to do it. And also, if you're giving them full feeds at night, you can do this with bottles. You can do the same, where you cut it back by, say you're giving them a 6-ounce bottle twice a night. Start giving them less at night and try to fill it up during the day more. If you feel like, ripping off the Band-Aid and just cutting them cold turkey is not enough.
That was a good question that I also had, like, when we are ready to get rid of the night feeds. I exclusively pump, so they get like breast milk in a bottle, and they are taking like 2 full feeds at night. So like when we do get the go ahead that they're good to do that, like, do I like you said, just gradually give them less and less over time?
Well, it's up to you. You can either do the taper off where it's less. Also, the 4-night phase out, where you can either I have to revamp my brain for a second. It's basically over 3 nights, and the 4th night is the last night. You can feed them the first time when they wake up after a set time, such as like midnight. Like if you put them down at 7 o'clock and you're like, okay, I'll feed them the first time, but it has to be after midnight.
Yeah, we already basically do that. Like if it's only been like a couple hours, the
other option is, has it been at least 4 hours?
Yeah.
You could also offer them a dream feed somewhere in there, but that doesn't always work. Sometimes it wakes one of them up or both of them up, and it turns into.
Yeah, we were doing the dream feeds for a while, but then it really just turned into like we were just feeding them more, and then they just kept waking up anyway. So we scratched the dream feed.
Yeah. So, and then the other option is cold turkey. But like for you, Kristen, the tapering off might work the best when you do get the go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Cut it down by a couple of ounces and cut it down. And then by the time you get to like 2 ounces after that, just stop it.
Right.
Then their needs may start showing more during the day.
Right. And I also haven't started solids yet either, which we will be doing soon, which I'm sure will change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't go crazy. Really, food in the first year is for fun and explorations, to see what they like, how they deal with textures, see if they're allergic to anything. It's not like they really need those nutrients
for nutrition, right?
Yeah, so go slow, have fun with it. It's gonna, it might be a bit messy, but
right, yeah.
Does everybody know what a dream feed is? So if you do, does everybody know what it is? Has anybody not heard of this? Because I know that Lauren just threw out a term and I just want to make sure. So if you do not know, put down, like, give us a thumbs down or just, yep. So Andrea doesn't know. So I think that is something that we have to cover. So in the feeding universe, right, you have your feeds all day long, but then there is something specifically called a dream feed. And Lauren, you know, the funny part, Lauren, you're like, it's going to be crazy for a few nights. Like you just said that before. Like when you get pacifiers, it's going to be crazy for a few nights. We all know that you're going to be ripping out your eyebrows for those few nights. You're going to be crying in the bathroom by yourself. You're wondering how much vodka can you have and breastfeed at the same time. These will be all thoughts that occur to you during those times. So when we say that we know it's going to be like understand, we're using words that we have to use for nice, but we know how chaotic this is. We have unfortunately been there too. So Lauren is being a very gentle sleep coach, but I am more of I'm going crazy. I'm putting my head through a wall. So the whole thing with the dream feed, Lauren, could you tell us like what a dream feed is and when we would start instituting that?
All right. So if you start seeing that your babies, your twinnies are doing a little bit of a longer stretch, maybe 4 or 5 hours, basically the goal of a dream feed is to try to elongate that sleep, that big chunk of sleep. So say you're finally getting 5 hours. Say you lay them down at 7 and they're getting up at midnight for a feed, but you want to try to get that feed to kind of go away. You could pop in around 11 and feed them both, but it's not going to be like a overstimulating. It's going to be very quiet, dark. I want you to just either pop a boob in or give them a bottle, kind of fill their tank and get them to lay back down without waking them up or too much stimulation. This doesn't always work though. Sometimes they wake up. Sometimes one will wake up. Sometimes one will go right back to sleep. So this is really going to be a baby specific situation. If you find that it's not working and they're waking up, you know, you want to do like more of a time set approach where you're like, okay, I'm going to feed them if they get up after midnight. If you feel like they still need those feeds. Did I explain that correctly?
Yeah, that was good. It was really, once again, filling up their gas tank before they go on the longest portion of the road trip, right?
Yeah.
So even if they were already, like, let's say you fed them at 9 o'clock, right? But you're going to go to sleep at 10:30. You're going to top them off at 10:30. So you're going to just fill it up. You're going to get them to that full mark as much as we possibly can before we go to sleep. Because if they're going to have a nice stretch of sleep, which is why, like, as a boob queen, I think is really what it should be instead of IBCLC. Like, honestly, it has to do with how do we get the most sleep? Not saying that we don't give a crap about our kids, right? I love them. God bless them. I love them. Oh, they're the best. But I was going to lose my mind. And so was Lauren, which is why we're doing what we're going to do. But so we know that neither of us really knew about dream feeds until it was too late. Lauren, I'm going to go to the next slide because this is.
Go ahead. All right. So basically, these are the things that are really important with the kids this age. You need to establish a bedtime routine. It doesn't have to be a crazy long thing. I want it to actually be kind of on the shorter side, maybe 30 minutes. Like you could do a quick bath and you don't have to give your kids a bath every night. It doesn't have to be a thing. Like I know some parents who are like, no, we absolutely are going to do this, whatever. You could do, I want you to feed them. I want you to, if them nursing or having a bottle is the thing that's making them go to sleep, I want you to kind of separate it from actually going to sleep. So maybe you fill up their bellies earlier on, give them a bath, read a book, sing a song, lights out. But make it a consistent thing so that they know, oh, it's bedtime. Oh, because kids thrive on consistency. They want to know, oh, I'm getting into my PJs. It's getting dark. We're reading a special book. They need to understand and know what to expect. So like if every night's something different and it's a different night, a time every single night, they're not going to know what's coming next. I want you to keep a sleep log, daytime and nighttime, and then review it, look at it and say, oh, okay, wait, he only slept for 30 minutes, but she slept for 45 minutes. Okay, so he's going to need a little bit more sleep. Also, when you're looking at your sleep log at the end of the day and you're like, oh, we need to catch up, I want you guys to lay them down for that last catch up nap, however way you can. But I want them up like 2 hours before they have to go back down so that they are awake a little bit. You don't want them to wake up and then have to go right back down to sleep, 45 minutes later. So if you're trying, if say you have to give them a 45-minute nap, just make sure they're up 2 hours before they have to go back down. Use white noise, blackout curtains, and loveys. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want anything in the crib besides the baby and a pacifier and their sleep sack. But they have like the little loveys that have the little heads, the little blankets, and many babies who want to feel snuggly need something. They need to feel something. Sometimes they want to feel mom's hair or mom's shirt. Sometimes you need to incorporate a lovey so that they have that to feel secure with in the middle of the night. So I am a strong proprietor. Like, I totally encourage implementing a lovey. It will give them peace of mind, but I want you to keep that lovey in their sleep space along with the pacifiers. If you guys are going to keep those pacifiers, they are for the sleep space. You don't need to be out in the store with them, in the car, you'll lose them. So keep everything in there. It's like a treat. It's something that they look forward to. And they're like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my lovey and have my pacifier and go to sleep. There's also this thing called the 3 p.m. rule. So around 3 p.m., I want your house to become super chill, like Zen. I want the TV to be off. I want the music to be low. I know you're like 3 p.m., that's so early, but these kids get so overstimulated so easily. Having the TV on and having things being crazy, they need to chill. Yes, it's hours before they're going to bed, but they need that. They need that chill time, especially if they're going to try to take a catch-up nap. You really want to make it soothing. Yes, Nat.
Girl, tell me how we're going to do this when we have a kids coming home from school. How many of us, well, I don't have older kids.
That's your, you have older kids.
I'm going to challenge you.
Like the craziest time of day. There's zero chill. There's just no way.
This is one of the challenges because these kids need it. So maybe if you can get them to take that nap after 3 p.m. to catch up stuff so that they're in a quiet space while you're dealing with the chaos of the kids coming home from school.
Literally what I was going to remind you to say is that if you have, how many of us have older pups, right? A pair and a spare, as we so lovingly call you guys, right? So when you have that, we have to figure out a way that we could get those kiddos to have that while still paying attention to our bigs. And the thing is just because you guys now do not have an additional kiddo, at some point, this may be applicable to you. So make sure you're paying attention. So for that, it also is a great opportunity to spend time with the big. Because if we get the littles in for a nap and then we have time with just the big, that's that. And then also I wanted to say, Lauren, to your point too before about keeping the sleep log. If you have, like, I have boy girl, right? So if my dude was sleeping a little bit extra and my chick was sleeping less, that's a great opportunity for me to spend time with one kiddo, like instead of having them both wake everybody up. We also don't live in a situation or like here, you guys, I don't know if you know, I live in a really tiny apartment in New York. So I didn't have a separate place to put a kid, like when they were losing their minds. But I could put a kid in the living room with me, and you could use something like the tents that go over the slumber pods. So there are pieces of equipment that you could buy or that you could, I don't think you could rent it, but most of you hopefully have a local twins club or a local twins Facebook group or even just Facebook Marketplace to trade some of these items, because
there's a lot of free Facebook pages, buy nothing pages all over the place.
Those. So for the baby ones, think about how we could use the advice that we're getting, but put it into reality, right? So if you have bigs, we have to take that into consideration too. And like with the white noise curtain, with the white noise and the blackout curtains, it's so much easier to sleep train in the winter because loss of just the organicness of the night and day, but that's what we need to do. But you do not have to make a ginormous investment and spend $200 on Amazon and curtains. All you could do is get a lawn bag, like the black garbage bags, and duct tape it to the window. You guys do not have to make a huge investment in anything in order to make that room dark. But what Lauren's trying to say with that is darkness needs to equal sleep.
Yes.
So until the babies are 4 months old, they do not have circadian rhythms. They do not know what night is. They don't even know what, like, how their liver is livering,
Yeah.
let alone, or their skin is skinning, let alone knowing what day and night is. So making sure that we're like, okay, boo, like, we're going to hook you up. When you're in here, it's dark. This equals sleep, and then light equals awake.
To learn. We start to shape their sleep that way, and then they learn, oh, when it's dark and this white noise is going on, I need to sleep.
Yep. So get back to the 3 p.m. rule of how do we make it as serene as possible, and what is the motivation behind the 3 p.m. situation?
Well, okay, so I want you to do whatever you can do to make it as serene as possible. Shut the TVs off. You could play some like light music, but not like hardcore rock or Metallica stuff. You know, I would say try to keep any screen time to a minimum, absolutely, because, and they're little now, they really don't need to have an iPad in front of them, because all of that blue light really does make them stay awake, just like it keeps me awake when I'm staring at my phone in the middle of the night. So basically, the goal will be that they will be calm throughout the afternoon, take a nap, and lead into being continuously calm to go back to sleep in the evening. You know, implementing it with older kids is definitely going to be difficult. But like I said, if you could do that catch up nap somehow, get those babies down somehow. Even if you throw them in the stroller and you walk them around the block really quick and they conk out, and you can leave them in their stroller if it's nice out, it's fine. This is their emergency catch up nap. So any way you possibly can, and then spend time with the older one if you can. You know, just do quick homework with them. Make it a quiet time for them. Implement no screen time for them until later on, maybe, because you know everybody says that screen time is bad anyway. So, and then the last thing would be like to introduce some gentle sleep training. So, and that is, you know, possible anytime after they've gone through their 4-month sleep regression, and anytime that the doctor gives a go ahead to that they can sleep through the night. So if they're having medical problems, sleep training might not be ready. You might not be ready for the sleep training just yet.
How many of you guys have kids that are over a year old? Does anybody have anybody over a year old? Because I know that all the next slides that we have go to 12 to
all for older kids.
Yeah. So the thing is, so Kaylee, so your kids, how old are your kiddos?
They're 21 months, actually.
21 months. So Kaylee, what's the biggest struggle at 21 months that you're facing right now? Like where do you feel that things are going right, and where do you feel that things are going wrong with the big kids?
Yeah, so they nap really well. They go to daycare, so I do think there's an advantage to that because they're just with their friends and everyone goes to sleep. But they do nap well at home in their cribs too. And then they go down really easily. We've just had a ton of up and downs, probably since like 15-ish months. We were very spoiled in the beginning. They slept in between their feeds when they were little and needed to feed every 3 hours. And then they slept really well from like 5 to 9 months. It was lucky. And then, you know, the normal like teething and stuff. And then we got back to consistent patterns. And then just ever since 15 months, it feels like it's always teething something. And now that they're a little bit bigger, we honestly just snuggle them and fall back asleep and have set up kind of safe bed rails and stuff. So they're okay with us. It's just sometimes it's both of them, sometimes it's one of them. So it's a lot of back and forth. I think it's a mixture of the teething. You know, if they have a cold or something, there's that. I want us to do whatever we can if it's like not too late to sleep train or, you know, the gentle sleep training, of course, or just implement what we can, like from a bedtime perspective of just keeping them down throughout the night without those factors.
Okay. So as far as the teething is concerned, I want you to look at them during the day and see, are they cranky during the day? and at night. If they're not cranky during the day and they're pretty okay, but they're cranky at night, it might not necessarily be the teething.
Okay. Yeah.
Want
My
your
son a little bit, but not, he's pretty like go with the flow. So if he's playing and having, you know, but it's hard to, you know, but I'll do that.
How long is their naps? How long is
like 2 hours. They're like 12 to 2.
Okay. And then what time do they go down at night? And
Between like 7:30 and 8, they fall asleep.
Okay. And then what time do they get up in the morning? Like what time do you start the day?
Usually like 6:30, 6:45. That's kind of like a schedule constraint.
Regulated wake up?
They'll sometimes wake up earlier. We've definitely had some early wake ups. Now they'll usually sleep till 6:30, 6:45. We just kind of have to get up to get ready to go to daycare.
Yeah. I mean, they should be getting about 11 hours of uninterrupted sleep. So
Okay.
if you're getting up, but then they're waking up during the night, right?
Sometimes, yeah, it's up and down. But they fall back asleep pretty quickly with us.
You might want to actually bump up like earlier, make their bedtime like try 15 minutes earlier. Okay. I always say look at things in 15-minute increments because you might just be missing them their sleepy cues.
Okay.
You don't want to necessarily be laying them down and then just be collapsing to bed exhausted. Right. They need to learn how to be a little uncomfortable and get a little more comfortable and fall asleep on their own.
Okay.
You know, I don't want them screaming and crying and being upset as they're going to sleep because then they'll be dysregulated and they're not learning anything. You really try to. It's really hard because each of them is going to be a little bit different. So I want you to kind of be a detective and watch their sleepy cues. See if they're starting to rub their eyes.
Yeah.
Because you might just be missing it and they're just collapsing into sleep. And then they're waking up and they don't know how to go back to sleep.
Right.
Learning how to go to sleep on their own is a skill.
Yeah. So we do typically like rock them to sleep as well, or like hold them, you know. So I guess, would you recommend maybe just getting them almost asleep, trying the laying down on their own?
If you want to stop the rocking or the lying with them or whatever. So basically these are like sleep crutches and eventually they stop working and they block the independence to be able to sleep on their own.
Right.
So basically what I would do is there's a couple things. You could either start doing the rocking earlier in the bedtime routine.
Okay.
And then, reading a book, you can do the rocking and get them kind of settled. Just, I don't want them falling asleep in your arms.
Right.
So then I want you to start tapering back how many minutes you're doing it.
Okay.
If you're always rocking twin A and your partner's doing twin B, maybe switch babies so that they're like still getting a little bit of that, but it's just a little bit different. Because you really want them to break that dependency on being rocked to sleep.
Right.
Because they're not falling asleep on their own.
Correct.
So
the term that you're trying to use is controlled touch. So when we're looking at any sleep routines or any crutches that we're trying to break, we want to make sure that we are in control of the touch. So when our kiddos get bigger, right, they want to hold our hair, they want to hold your finger, they want to hold your shirt. It has to be that you hold their finger, that you hold their hair, that you hold their shirt. And it has, so then when you let go, that they don't feel that. So it really is an issue. I know that one of the biggest issues that we have with twinnies that are above 12 months is that they want to sit there and they want to sit on your lap, but you have to figure out a way to gently ease them out of that. You don't want to go cold turkey and be like, that's it. Today, this is where you sleep. This is what I'm doing. That's that. It's got to be, we really like the term gentle. It doesn't have to be like fully gentle. We could be a little firm with the words that we're using. But in general, it's not a cry it out, because a cry it out, truthfully, nobody wins because nobody could learn in an unregulated state, right? So when you're losing your mind, right? When we're having like a friggin' panic attack and our partners say to us, calm down. Oh God. So the thing is that's basically what we're trying to tell the kids, is that when they're losing their mind and they're screaming and we're like, go to sleep, it's the equivalent of like our partners telling us to calm down, which is like the kiss of death for everybody. It certainly doesn't do anything. So we have to think what are things that you could do in your day to make it so that we're breaking those sleep crutches? Because we know that they don't have them in daycare, right?
Right.
We know the biggest
Yeah.
tools of daycare is that consistency, right?
Right.
That's how they win. So they have consistent patterns. It's our we when I'm not saying that it's all our fault, but classically, me and Lauren will tell you that we're always to blame for anything that goes wrong in our families. That's it. It doesn't even matter. So we don't even have to be there. It's definitely our fault. So what are things that we could do that can help teach our kiddos to sleep? Because as Lauren just said, sleep is a learned skill. It's when nobody comes out of the womb a great sleeper, right?
Yes.
Everybody comes out and we all are a little crappy. I mean, some of us are even crappy sleepers. So what do we do? What are the crutches that we personally have? Maybe we need to do a self-inventory and see what are the things that we're letting ourselves get away with, right? Are we letting ourselves stay up too late? Or are we going to let our kids stay up too late? So what are the things that we could do? Because we always want better for our kids than we want for ourselves. Right? We'll eat the leftover pork chop that's just the bone on the dish, but we'll make sure that the kids have everything. So what are the things that we could do to fill up as many of those nurturing components that they were getting before, when they want to be rocked to sleep, when they want to be held to sleep? So I have, very fortunately or unfortunately, Lauren and I both do in-home sleep stuff. So we'll go to families' houses, and I am always amazed at how parents are so unaware of things that they're doing that are inadvertently screwing up their kids' sleep. Is it that they have, an alarm that just goes off every day at 3 o'clock because their partner has to work an overnight shift, and that's basically waking the babies up? Is it that, their sheets are a little itchy and that the parents never actually put, like, what's there? Like, do you have a kid that has a sensory issue? Is there something that's causing those sparks? So look at the environment and take an inventory. And this is, by the way, it doesn't matter if your kids are 3 months or if your kids are 3 years. Do an inventory, do a mental inventory, get down to their level, crawl, literally, not saying get into their crib, but get on your knees and look at the crib from their point of view. Is there a little bit of a light that comes from an outlet? Like, do you have like a GHI outlet? Is there something that's so minute that you would not see unless you were on that level? Is there smell in their house? Like, so Lauren, I apologize, I jumped in, but I kept thinking
that's fine. You're right, because I've seen babies stimulated so easily by the littlest thing, like the littlest light. I was in a house where there was a fire smoke detector on the ceiling, and there was the tiniest little red light, and this baby would not sleep, just stare at that red light. So we just had to take tape and cover it.
Yeah.
And the baby finally started to sleep. So I really, like Nat said, go into their sleep environment. When I go in, I'm like, okay, wait a second. It's too bright in here. We need black. We need some darkness. White noise always filters out the noise in the other room. So like if you have an older kid or you have a dog or you're watching TV, the white noise will muffle anything going on out there.
Yeah.
Are they in cribs still?
Yes, they are. And again, we do have, like, my daughter especially, she is more consistent. So she'll go like long stretches of fully sleeping through the night too. So I think with some of it we have it tackled, but
yeah. All right.
Yeah,
we feel for you. So let's talk about getting better with napping. So Lauren, like today, right after they get off today, what are actionable items that we could put into play today to get the Twinnies to have a better napping experience?
Well, making sure that they have full bellies when they're laying down, that they're not going to be waking up, making sure that it's a calm environment, it's a dark environment, extending their naps. Now, there's a few things you can do, separating them, especially if one's getting up before the other, and the one that's getting up beforehand, try to get in there, lay them back down, be calm about it. I don't want any babies screaming their heads off. They don't need, I want you to pick them up, soothe them, make them happy. I want them calm when you laying them back down. Try to lay them back down. When I do some sleep coaching, like to implement what's called the shuffle, where you can sit with them, pick a chair, get a chair, sit right next to them. If you're in one room with 2 cribs, try to get into the middle of them. I want you to do very intermittent speaking, intermittent touch. You guys control the touch. Be there physically so that they can physically see you, and just encourage them, lay down, lay down, lay down. If one is hysterical, obviously pick that one up, calm that one down. But don't jump necessarily. You want a little bit of discomfort. You want, if they're just whining, it's okay. Just comfort them. You can kind of pat their back, rub their head a little bit, but very intermittently. I don't want it to be a continuous thing, because then that'll become a new sleep crutch. But you will physically be there to remind them that they're okay, they're in a safe spot. I want you guys to sit there until they fall asleep, which can take a lot of time. Sometimes I implement this for nighttime sleep before we do the nap coaching. Just because it depends. It's really baby dependent and family dependent on where they are developmentally and what's going on in the house. So a lot of the times we will just sit there for 3 days, 3 nights, try and get them to go to sleep. I want you to not talk a lot. I don't want you to be constantly over touching everybody. I want them to go to sleep on their own. I want you to get them when they're drowsy, but not exhausted, so they're not collapsing into bed. So it's going to be a little bit of a work in progress. But if you do this at bedtime, and then whenever they wake up, you also get them back down. You sit down in the chair and you get them to go back to sleep with you just being there. But I don't want you leaving the room until you know they are out cold completely. And now this could take 45 minutes. It could take an hour. They might be like, why are you in here? But if it's dark, I don't want you playing on your phone, and it's going to be really boring. So I want, you to be able to withstand sitting there for a little while. And I don't want any coaching from your partner in the hallway saying, oh, you're not doing it right, or this is wrong, or let me do it, or and I want you both to be able to do this, where if you separate them and one goes in one room and you go in the other, you're both doing the same thing. You're just sitting there. You're physically there. You're telling your child, I'm here for you. I'm giving you a secured attachment. I'm here when you're upset and you're confused. But then you calm them down and let them fall asleep on their own. So usually I say do this for 3 nights, where every time they wake up, you sit with them again. It's exhausting the first night, especially because it's all new to both of you. By night 4, by the 4th night, I always say move back to like the middle of the room between you and the door, the crib and the doorway, so that they can see you, but you're not touching them. Now, if you see when you move on that 4th night that they're like totally wacky and they're like, no, they're screaming, they're crying, you did too much the first couple of nights. It was too much talking, too much touching. So you may have to go back to the original position where you're close to the crib and really do less. And depending on your baby, you also have to look at their personalities. You may have a super alert baby who like has super FOMO, doesn't want to miss the party, thinks there's something going on outside. So that's the reason why you need to stay there until they're totally asleep, because if they're just semi-asleep and you walk out, that alert baby is going to be like, whoa, what am I missing? You're out there having a good time without me. And then you're going to have to start all over again. So basically, for the 4th, 5th, 6th night in the middle of the room, 7th night at the doorway. For these babies who are like on the go, I also say, put a baby gate at the door, so that if they're in a toddler bed, this is it's a physical reminder that they have to get back to bed and they won't escape. So you can sit right at the door and do the same thing. I'm here, time to go to sleep. And as it becomes more of a routine, they'll start to learn how to go to sleep on their own. As long as you have, consistency there, you're making sure that they're not totally exhausted and just collapsing into the crib, and making sure that they've eaten enough during the day, and that they've gotten enough sleep during the day. Now you can do this with the naps as well, but sometimes doing it overnight is easier than doing it during the day at first. How about when we co-sleep?
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm trying to take what you're doing. And if you look, guys, if you look in the chat while Lauren's talking, I'm doing a summary for us because I want the cliff notes of it. So I'm putting it in there now. It says, is for anybody that's co-sleeping, right? Whether you're co-sleeping or you have a family bed, understand that at Twiniversity, there will never be any judgment, anytime, anywhere. Well, I know that the majority of you are in the United States. We have to realize that in the United States, we're one of the only countries that does not have a family bed. So we do have to take that into consideration, because that is a much bigger deal, because now not only do we have to get them used to sleeping in their own sleep space, but we got to get them out of our bed, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we want to have another set of 20s down the road. It's going to be difficult with them right there, unless we're open to other rooms of the house, let's say. But yes, when it comes to them co-sleeping, so let's talk about if they are, let's not talk about co-cribbing. Let's talk about co-sleeping. If they're sleeping in your room. So whether it is in a bassinet or a family bed, Lauren, what's the first step that we need to take?
Okay, well, do you want them out of your room? Obviously, some parents are like, no, but I just want them to sleep better. Um, if you want them in their own sleep space, start hanging out in their sleep space. Don't make it a foreign environment. They really need to be comfortable going in there. Play there, play during the day in there. Make it a fun place. Make it, have their toys in there. When they're sleeping, you want to take the toys out, obviously, but like make it a place that they're not scared to go into. Make it so that you're in there, everybody's comfortable. I would say start to try to nap them in there during the day, here and there, getting them introduced to sleeping in there before you put them in at night. I'd like them to stay with us till they are 4 or 5 years old. Okay, so what are they? They're in your bed. So, and you want to stay with them. Okay, but
yeah, I can I can also, if you can, yeah. So we have these two king beds that we put side to side, and so it's like a huge big bed, and all four of us can sleep. Yeah, but they're 20 months old. One wants to sleep, one does not want to sleep, or wants to talk and sing before he wants to sleep, and the other really is sleepy. So they wake each other up. They're still not able to sleep at the same time. So the other one runs away to another place or cries or gets very cranky and loses her sleep window, and then she goes out and wants to play. So we're having this issue of how do we make them sleep together, or should we not make them sleep together? Because I'd like my kids to sleep together. I mean, together at the same time, but also together to get their bond better, right? Either in two cribs, which we don't want right now, but ideally in the same big bed, big family bed. But we're facing some challenges. 2 months earlier, it was okay. We did the 3-day, 4-day thing where I spent hours together every night, but then it was okay. But now it's back to square one and they're not sleeping at the same time. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So I'd like to know, what is your advice and how have you seen this? Yeah.
okay. So even though you don't want to separate them, I would strongly suggest for naps, you separate them. So if they're getting that good sleep during the day, because right now they're not.
No, naps I am. Naps I am. So naps for the morning, afternoon naps, we do put them separately because they have different sleep
All right.
timings. So it's like one only naps for 20, 30 minutes, and my girl can sleep for 3 hours or 2 hours. But the night time is where we are struggling.
Okay. And do you have a regulated bedtime and wake up time?
Yes, like right now, because
Okay.
we're in Switzerland.
Oh,
So yes, right now, and that's why they're getting irritated. So I would really like this question to be answered. Then I'll take the recording later and I'll put them to bed.
okay. So, I mean, truthfully, I would separate them temporarily until you get that poorer sleeper to sleep better. But I want the better sleeper to sleep in another room. Just this is temporary. You can get them back together, absolutely, once they both are on track.
How old are
They're 20.
So 20 and a half months, they'll be 21 next month. So,
Sorry.
but it's not that it's only one person. It's sometimes my girl, sometimes my boy. But mostly my boy wants to talk and my girl wants to sleep quietly. And I don't rock them. I don't do any of those things. So I'm glad that I'm doing something which is right. I just pat them at times or I just sing for some time and then we keep quiet. So all those things I've been following. But they just seem to spring up from the bed and they want to go play
Okay,
outside,
so
like the FOMO.
yeah, they're having FOMO. How long is their nap during the day?
One is about 2 hours at least for the girl, and for the boy, it's around 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so
max.
he needs more sleep.
And he gets up at night as well, and he's the one who wants to talk the whole
So
time.
because he's not getting that daytime sleep, that's causing the middle of the night wake ups. His brain is producing all this cortisol that's making him wake up. He's not getting, you need to work on getting him more sleep during the day.
Okay,
So
so maybe 2 naps.
taking that 30-minute nap, he needs to take a few 30-minute naps over
Oh,
the next,
yeah, two naps. Oh, okay.
like if he's only taking 30-minute naps, he's going to need enough to catch up to 2 hours. He needs 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I
Okay.
also want to say that developmentally, we're
Yeah.
basically putting them into a situation where they're entitled to the best slumber party of their life.
Yeah.
And you want to put regulations on it, and there's only so much that you're going to be able to do about that. So one of the biggest challenges, obviously, that we face is that our kids get to be with their best friend 24 hours a day. So if you think about when you were younger and you were able, like sleeping with your cousins, or like your cousins came over, and how much
Hmm.
that would be, that's what it is every night for our kids.
Yeah.
So while they have the comfort,
Yeah.
they also have that delicious distraction of each other.
Mhm.
And so it's really basically teaching them to be respectful of the other person's sleep and just say, listen, if we can't do this, then we can't have this situation. Like, I want you to sleep in the same bed. I want there to be a big family bed. But if you keep waking Sissy up, we can't have this. Like, the thing is, a Sissy needs to sleep. And the thing is, you have to remember, our kids,
Yeah.
when they sleep, our kids don't grow when they're awake. And so we have to teach them how to sleep and teach them to be respectful of each other's sleep. So when you're having a family bed, this is one of the biggest issues because they just want to have a party. I mean, how could you not? My God, Suchi, if I was in your house and me and Lauren were there in 2 king size beds, we would be up all night. Me and her.
Be up all night talking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
And you
like a playground for them.
And you
Yeah.
can still show them your love and have boundaries. You know, kids need rules, and they need to know, oh, you need to sleep, and you need to, be respectful of your sister and all that. And even though they're only 20 and a half months old, this is the groundwork to their future of things that are expected of them.
All right. Okay. Quite a lot of things. Thank you. Just one last question is on the feed before I drop off.
Yeah.
Is that because they have rejected drinking milk with open eyes, I would say, since 8-10 months old. So it's only during when they're sleeping, during a nap, or during like at 10 o'clock at night, I will give them something so that they are full because they don't eat as much. So my boy wakes up at night 2 times and he'll cry because he's hungry, but he doesn't want to drink milk. And then I will have to get a banana or snack, and I don't want to do that because it's not the right thing for his body, right? I mean, as by Ayurveda, what we look at.
That's a feeding issue. That's not a sleep issue. So what you could do, information, like for all of us that have, like for everybody that's here, Lauren and I, or Lauren, or just I, or whoever it is, we have a monthly meetup. And so for all Twiniversity families, like these are appropriate things, and also sleep issues to bring up. Like we literally have every second Tuesday of the month at 1:30 Eastern time, we have a get together where Lauren and I basically have an open forum where you could ask questions. So this is definitely something for that. I want to stick kind of on sleep because especially Lauren, I just want you to just go over the Sleep Lady Shuffle one more time before, because I know you guys are joining during your lunch hour for work, and we want to be respectful of that time. So Lauren, could you just walk us through the Sleep Lady Shuffle one more time? And do we find that to naps and bedtime, or all the time? For all sleep, we're doing the shuffle.
It's going to be family dependent. So I usually say start off at bedtime with the shuffle. And then once that starts working, then do it for the naps if the naps aren't working. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take a chair, sit in between the 2 cribs, do very intermittent speaking and touch, very intermittent. Tell them you're here, time to go to sleep. You can give them a kiss, a hug, pat them on the back a little bit, and then just sit and wait. They may stand up. They may start screaming. They may, want you to pick them up. I want you to try to get them lay back down, tell them go to sleep. This is where the lovey comes in. They can snuggle with their lovey. Basically, you're going to sit there, try to get them to go to sleep as much as you can, until they are asleep, out cold. If you need to separate them. You do one baby, your partner does the other, but everybody needs to be on the same page. So I want you to do that for 3 nights in a row, where if they get up in the middle of the night, you're going to try to get them to lay back down the same way and also sit there. So they physically know you're there for them. It's giving them a secured attachment so that they know you are there for them. You're not leaving them to scream it out, because cry it out doesn't work. People are very inconsistent with it. It literally means you just literally put them in there and close the door and walk out. You don't show up until the next morning. And 9 times out of 10, parents will end up going in there at some point, 30 minutes later, 45 minutes later. And then all it's done is make your kid upset. They've been dysregulated. They have not learned a thing. And then they don't even understand why you left them there. So then you might try it again the next day, where you let them scream for an hour, but then you go in. So like yesterday it was 30 minutes, today it's an hour. They're getting such mixed signals. So this is more of where you're there for them. You're keeping them calm. I don't want anybody upset. But also be aware that some of these kids are really smart, and they will trick you. So they may start screaming their heads off, and you're going to swoop them up. And the second you pick them up, they stop. So that's when you know you've been had. So if it takes a few seconds for them to calm down, then you know they were genuinely upset. But these kids are very smart. So I want you to you need to know that if you pick that one up and immediately calms down, you've been had, so that you got to wait a little bit longer next time to picking them up. But verbally trying to calm them down. So you do that for 3 nights. Then you move a little bit away, depending on the size of the room you're in. If you are in a really small room, you might just get to the door. But normally I would say get to the middle of the room, so you're a little bit further away, and you do that for 3 nights, where you're verbally telling them, okay, it's time for bed. I'm here for you. But if you've moved away on that 4th night and they go bonkers, you've been doing too much. So you have to go back. You may have to take it a little slower than if you just had one child, because there's 2 of them and you might be trying to deal with both of them. So basically by night 7, I want you at the door. You may just be able to peek in a little bit and sit there, but I want you to sit there for all these times until they go to sleep. And anytime they wake up in the middle of the night, I want you to resume that spot until they go back to sleep. You can console them if they're up. If someone needs a diaper change them really quick, but get them right back down. Eventually they start learning I'm going to lay down and I'm going to sit here with my lovey and suck on my pacifier, and they go to sleep on their own. That's the goal. One baby may be a little more difficult than the other. So it's really, that's where the sleep log comes in, and your child's personality better than we do. So you may have to go a little slower with that more alert child, because that child may be like, oh, wait, there's something going on. I know, so you may have to do things a little slower. You may have to do, your nighttime routine, your bedtime routine a little slower with that one.
And
so you may
also remember, identicals don't do identical things.
No, they do not.
Even if you have IDs, that does not mean that you will be on the same sleep schedule, you will eventually get there, but you should not anticipate identical responses to what you're doing. And also we have to never forget that when we have fraternal twins, they're just 2 kids that happen to be born on the same day. That's it. We got to figure out, well, why is he doing that? Why is she doing that? Why is she doing that? Why is she doing? Who knows? Who knows why that happens? We have one more question, and then I know we have to go back to our reality. But Mark said that earlier you mentioned that if a baby was awake for a long period during the night, like an hour, that we should add time on for extra sleep. When should this time be added on? In the morning or accumulated throughout the day during naps?
No. It should be the overnight hours. So say, let me get my notes. So say you have, where did I put this? I'm losing all my papers. I'm sorry. All right. So say you have a 15-month-old and you need 11 and a quarter hours of sleep, but that 15-month-old wakes up for an hour in the middle of the night. It's really going to be 12 hours overnight. So you implement it in the overnight hours. So say they normally go down at 7:30. You may have to bump it to 7 and then make their wake up time a little bit later. Like the goal is that they're going to get 11 and a quarter hours of actual sleep throughout that nighttime. You don't add it during the day. The daytime would be the daytime hours, which is like 2 and a quarter to 2.5 hours for that age range. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, we have some good news for you. I'm going to stop recording now, but I am going to tell you guys who are not here joining us something special. So let me pause. Let me stop the recording. Okay, and if I can, there.